Have you ever expected a ghost to disintegrate into acidic green-like goop? I didn't even think that was possible. Yeah, the end of Danny Phantom Season 2 is one of the most epic experiences I've ever seen on cartoon television, which is why it's important to not only go over the season finale, but the 2 episodes leading up to it. So today I want to talk about 3 episodes of Danny Phantom that really changed the game. The first one being my favorite up until the season finale, which I consider one of the best 2-part episodes of Danny Phantom. If you've seen my Season 2 retrospective, I go over all of it and more, but for the people who like a little bit shorter of a video, let's dive into what makes Season 2 of Danny Phantom so incredible. What's up, everybody? It's Johnny 2000, focusing on 2000s movies, TV, media, and so much more. So the last 3 episodes are ordered a little weird. There's like 2 different Wikipedia pages. One that says the reality trip season finale is here in episodes 17 and 18. And then it ends with Double Cross My Heart with Sam and this new guy, and then ends on the Danny Kindred Spirits episode as the season finale. But I'm gonna go in the first order because I like the idea of a season ending with a 2-part episode. And these moments kind of feel like they are leading up to reality trip, so let's just work with it. The next episode is 15, Kindred Spirits, and when I was little, I loved this episode, probably just because Danny with an I is a girl version of Danny with a Y. And for me, as somebody who relates to women a lot more than men, I feel like this one spoke to me a lot, because I always felt connected to Danny Phantom, and that's the kind of superhero I would always want to be, but the cousin, the girl version, feels a lot more realistic to me. It's really crazy because you question the entire time, Danny has a cousin? Some random girl shows up at his place and is like, hey, you're my cousin. And it's not explained whose side, what would have happened. How in the world does he have a cousin? And then also I'm confused because it's how is she revealed to be half ghost if that was an accident, a one-time thing that happened to Danny? You wouldn't inherit the ghost powers. It's one of those stories where it's they don't see eye to eye at first, but Danny is sort of getting used to the idea of having a little cousin. It definitely interferes the regular mundane life he's used to. Unlike King Tuck or the Beauty Marked episode, it takes things a little bit too far. It's funny because it has a lot of Danny abandoning his friends, which is kinda not cool, Danny. They keep going places, having to suffer from a ghost attack, and Danny has to leave to take care of his cousin, only for Tucker and Sam to clean up the mess, which is definitely something I would be resentful of a friend for doing. I like how they're really good at relating it to modern day issues. So from right at the beginning, we see Vlad trying to come up with a new way to take down Danny Phantom, and we don't really know what he's up to quite yet until we meet the cousin. It definitely feels like she's about to be a mainstay, the way they're arguing and how likable she is. It's very clear it's not an enemy, and seeing Danny actually get along with somebody because they're both half ghost is really endearing. Vlad inserts himself back into the picture in a fight with Danny, and that's where we learn that this girl is actually working for Vlad. And is she even related to Danny? Nope. It turns out that Vlad took Danny's DNA to kind of make his own son or daughter, pretty much he's always wanted to have Danny as his son and control him, basically raise him to be more like him. But since regular Danny isn't really good at that because he's too good for it, Vlad has to make up this whole new person. So they end up trapping Danny, turns out to all be a part of little Danny's plan to get him. So now Vlad is trying to turn him into his son. That's when Danny starts to realize that she's essentially being used by this guy, and he keeps using his emotions to be oh, we're destroying Danny to make you better, when really it's he's trying to do something else with Danny. Sam and Tucker play more of the heroes in this episode because after all Danny is done with them by defeating ghosts or ruining places only for them to clean up the mess, they have to go after him again when he's kidnapped. They get into the Spectre Speeder and use the ghost boomerang to detect where he could possibly be. And this is a cool utilization of this item. I feel like it didn't make much sense until they needed to find Danny. It's almost like a kidnap type episode. Danny gets a lot of moments with younger Danny to talk to her and try to explain to her that every time she overexerts herself, she's hurting herself. And it's kind of this metaphor for self-care where Danny is please don't give up yourself just to help this man get to me. And she thinks that he loves her, but he doesn't. And it's really depressing to think all these circumstances are going on because she just wants to be loved as this fake figure. She stays loyal to Vlad for most of the episode until Vlad asks little Danny to sacrifice herself. And she's like, but the last clone melted, wouldn't I melt? And he's more like, well, who cares? And she's realizing how bad he is and not really looking out for her. Thank God we get a quick turn of events where she goes ghost, teams up with Danny, and then they take down Vlad once and for all. It's a really epic fight scene, especially since Danny has to kind of defend her and she has to defend him, and Vlad is just getting stronger and stronger as this goes on. With Big Danny taking care of Little Danny this whole episode, it kind of comes full circle when she saves him, saying not to mess with her cousin, and she actually stays alive, which is really sweet. Sam and Tucker finally find them, come in to save the day, and fully defeat Vlad, and everything is all working out. He says goodbye to Danny as she flies off into the sunset, and who knows where she's going. Maybe to start a business, I don't know. That's what I would do. But yeah, I'm seeing why I like this episode so much. Not only is it cool to have like a different take on Danny Phantom himself, but also have somebody that is struggling with the ghost powers in a different way that Danny can nurture separate. You know, like we don't get to see a lot of wholesome ghosts in this show, and when Danny has to interact with them, it kind of changes him as a person, and then the way he has to react to other people, like Vlad or his friends. Like, this is a good representation of what ghost powers will do to you in your life, especially when you act out of apathy or not caring about other people, like Vlad kind of does. And seeing everybody kind of team up to overtake him is really humbling, and I like how the show represents unity with not only Danny Phantom as the main title character, but with everybody and all the parts they play in this, like Maddie and Jack and Mr. Lancer. Like, they find a way to get everybody in town involved on Danny's journey, which I really like. And this episode proves that they could just add and take away characters at any point as long as they have Danny at the forefront of all the situations, because this episode worked really well for me, especially years later. The stakes get raised a lot more in the next episode, season 2, episode 16. It's the last regular half-hour episode before we get to the 3-part season finale reality trip. And this is really good at building up toward that, because it takes Danny and Sam's relationship to the next level in a negative way, where he's been avoiding their relationship for quite some time, but there's a lot of pressures that come into place to actually force him or Sam to make a decision about what they want to do. Their relationship is a lot like the Friends relationships, the How I Met Your Mother relationships, of friendships trying to stay neutral, or at least people trying to maintain friends outside of a relationship, but they have a crush on each other. Danny Phantom covers this a lot, and I really like the way they do it in this episode, going full in on it. Weirdly enough, we start with Skulker's point of view, you know, the demon ghost hunter that always tries to kill Danny. Yeah, I guess we're empathetic toward him this episode. He's being attacked by this giant plane that is ran by the guys in white, who actually work for the government to take down ghosts. So it seems like everybody believes in ghosts in this world. I like that their whole world is kind of centered around it. And we learn that Skulker actually has the ability to separate his ghost self from his shell, making him like a robotic empty clam for them to attack, which is interesting. It means that most of Skulker's body isn't actually active. It's just a small ghost that takes it over. In a way, bringing it to life kind of reminds me of that Ghost Rider movie. A cool thing about this episode is it not only progresses Sam's plotline toward Danny, but Danny's plotline toward Sam. Like, he starts out with having a crush on Valerie in the beginning of the episode, which it's kind of crazy because they can't be together because of all this ghost hunting stuff. She quit being with him because she wanted to commit to it, but he still has a crush on her, and she's still smiling at him, so I guess it's not over there. This kind of bothers Sam a lot, but it really bothers Danny when another person goes up to talk to Sam. So, I guess the shoe's on the other foot now, Danny. Yeah, this guy is goth, he's got white hair, and looks just like the human version of what Danny Phantom would be, which is kind of weird because it's like, Sam, you don't have a crush on any other type of guy, or except Danny when he's as a ghost, not even as himself. But I guess it does prove that, like, she would make a good match for him. They're both kind of emo with dark hair and style. So Danny gets pretty jealous right off the bat, while Sam and him seem like the perfect match. Next thing you know, the guys in white start attacking Danny at the Nasty Burger. We haven't seen a lot of these guys since the $1 Million Ghost way back in season 1, but they're kind of funny. It's funny that Mr. Lancer is the one that introduces Gregory to Sam and the group. Like, it seems like he has nothing better to do than walk this kid from the school to the Nasty Burger where the kids hang out just to introduce them. It's like kind of crazy. Danny acts a little hostile towards Sam the more she spends time with him because he can't control his emotions, it seems. Although he constantly gets interrupted by the guys in white trying to track him down. It's so funny because it's like, it's not the central plot that Danny's being hunted, but like, a bigger deal because he's more focused on Sam, meaning that he's kind of in a vulnerable position, especially as a teenage boy. Hearing the guys in white call Danny a prepubescent ghost is so funny. He's like, of course, offended by that. Tensions rise way further when Danny actually warns Sam about Gregor, but she doesn't want to listen, so the two kind of start getting at each other in a really negative way. And I'm starting to think that if these guys can't be together, I don't know if they could even be friends, because it's not super healthy to have two people that have feelings for each other ignore their own relationship and pursue other ones in the same friend group. Like, I don't know, it's just not cool. In all honesty, though, Danny does have a point. Like, there is definitely a connection between the man in white and Gregor. Like, it can't be ironic. But of course, since he's jealous of Sam, it's gonna come across as jealousy. Danny even sees them kiss, only boiling him further. Oh, it becomes kind of sad for Danny because it's really clear that Gregor is almost replacing him because he has more controls over his emotion. He approaches Danny in the locker room to say he knows he doesn't like him, but he's gonna be dating Sam for the long run, and Danny is starting to really be upset by what's going on here. So as his friends leave Danny behind, Danny realizes that if they're going to be going after Gregor, maybe he's not working with them, but Tucker and Sam are definitely in danger because they're in the line of fire. Gregor shows his true colors when they're all hanging out at the observatory, and he gets so frustrated with Tucker. Basically admits that he's been doing this whole act of being goth just to get with Sam, and it's really disrespectful, like not cool. But hey, I've never seen anything more real. Guys changing their entire personality just to get with a girl, like that's just normal. It's so funny because he turns out not to be anything ghost related, just a really big jerk. So Danny gets to make up for everything by defeating the guys in white, saving Gregor, and apologizing to Sam for looking out for her, which it's like, come on. They end up coming to an agreement that they're good as just friends, everything is okay the way it is, and we don't need to improve on anything. Okay. And Tucker decides he's gonna start using Gregor's tips to hit on girls. Okay. I guess staying stagnant as characters is the same thing as growth? I don't know. And that's when we get to one of the best episodes of all Danny Phantom, Reality Trip. And it does a really good job at wrapping up everything it set up at the beginning of the season with a nice finale that is the peak of everything. It's a really hard to top The Ultimate Enemy as the best special. And while I don't think it does exactly that, it definitely is a building block on a better story that Danny Phantom was telling. Not only with the King Pariah plotline, with Rainstorm and Valerie going into that, but it takes everything and takes it a step further. Danny Phantom is getting ready for the best summer of his life, finally trying to take a break from ghost fighting. He teases his dad by flying through the house, and his dad's like, oh, I hate Danny Phantom, he is the worst ghost ever, which actually is gonna matter in a minute, just wait. And then we get the circus freak from season 1 Control Freaks, the finale. Not sure if you guys remember, but he's this Joker presenting ringleader that initially possessed Danny to be a part of his circus. He has this Thanos-like arm that needs to be connected by 3 jewels, and it would allow him to control essentially reality, time, and space, which is really cool. Like having one episode be about time travel, one episode being about power, and this episode being about control of all of that, it definitely raises everything for this. And this man is creepy. Like, I like the voice actor so much because he does a great job at making him seem like diabolical, driven, and also control hungry. The guys in white have kept him captive for all this time, but now he finally breaks out with his Thanos-like machine. And he breaks out just in time for the theme song to come in. Yeah, here we go. The reason this feels like a movie is because it's structured perfectly around one. Like, we just had the cold open act as like that incredible first scene of a movie, setting the tone, the stakes, the enemies. Like, it's cool how it starts. And then having the whole act 1 be about Danny trying to enjoy vacation with Sam and Tucker. There's a whole Dumpty Humpty concert going on live at the school, so it's almost like they're celebrating this whole new era of their lives. And it's cool how they set up everything in Act 1 to be paid off. Like, Sam wants to go to this whole goth concert, Danny wants to go to the space exhibit, and Tucker wants to go to this technology place. They're all their goals for the summer. As you guys remember, when in the 2000s we went into summer, we definitely had a plan for what we wanted to do, and we were determined to have it happen. Danny just has ghost powers, so he's able to make it happen a lot easier. Like, let's say, possessing Sam's parents to let her do all this? Yeah. It's so funny to think about all the perks that being a ghost actually does, because usually it's just like a crime-fighting benefit, but this scenario is really funny. It's pretty much cut short to just them having excitement toward the summer plans, and then Freak Show essentially coming back immediately. As Casper High is getting excited for the Dumpty Humpty concert, Freak Show and his ghost assistant start attacking everybody. Danny is not in the mood for this and wants to save the concert, so he takes on Freak Show right then and there. But Freak Show has Thanos' arm, which in this case is called the Tesseract, I guess. Danny gets to see up front how powerful this thing is and that this is going to be a bigger threat than he realized initially. The men in white end up playing a bigger role than I thought, which actually makes it relevant that they were here these past couple episodes anyway. This gauntlet is really cool because it like brings the clouds to life to fight Danny. He even brings a train to life. But Danny like doesn't want to deal with it. He just wants to go to the concert, so he lets Freak Show go. A fatal mistake that's gonna bother him for a while. So the 4 gems that activate it, which has been doing all these things to the town, is really powerful. Sam finds a book that's explaining everything it does. Danny keeps trying to dodge the responsibility and focus on the concert, but Sam is like, we have to think about this. This has been a common occurrence in the second season where Danny is a little bit more defiant toward his ghost responsibilities, all this stuff he's supposed to do in favor of like just being a teenage kid. Like, he does a lot of adult-like responsibilities, so when he actively has to go against doing them, he usually is faced with a lot of consequences, which really sucks for him. The giant crossover into Act 2, where all the action usually happens in a movie, is perfect in this. Just at the 10-minute mark, when Humpty Dumpty is about to play on stage, Freak Show ends up taking over the concert in this huge event, capturing the band and addressing all the students. But worst of all, he outs Danny in front of the entire school. Yeah, Danny, Sam, and Tucker try to take the gauntlet away from him, but instead, Danny goes right back to being a human, dead on stage in front of everyone. And this is the moment, if you like Danny Phantom, you've been waiting for, because he's outed in front of everybody. The same way Fairly Odd Parents is a big deal, because Timmy has to keep a secret that he has Fairly Godparents, and then it culminates in huge movie events when it's revealed that he does. That's like this big moment for Danny Phantom, where he doesn't get a lot of seasons, so we don't get to see this happen often. But when it does, it is rich, because not only is everybody in the school realizing that he's half ghost, but Danny's parents and Jazz are also watching at the time. Oh, and also Valerie and her dad. So all the parents kind of get their feathers ruffled and argue with each other about this whole Danny Phantom situation. It becomes talk of the town, which raises the stakes even further, putting pressure on Danny and his friends. Now they can't even return home. So originally they wanted to take this nice vacation field trip to these 3 places, but now it becomes a runaway mission with Sam, Tucker, and Danny trying to avoid their parents, reality, and get this gauntlet. They do a really good job in this episode of hiding what the parents actually feel about this. Like, they're not saying they hate it, they love it. Like, it's more so like we don't understand how they're going to react, and Danny has to essentially go as if his life is over. With the men in white following them all along the way, Danny is nowhere safe, which makes the stakes even further. So not only is Danny trying to take down Freak Show, he's trying to get all these gems that he once possessed while avoiding everybody in his life. He takes the Spectre Speeder, or some weird version of this machine that his parents own, and the 3 embark on a mission to get each of these gems. The first one ends up being at the space place that Danny wanted to go initially. So it kind of takes his whole vacation and makes it worse for the sake of being ghost fighting. The stakes go even further if you thought they couldn't, when Freak Show gives Danny 3 days to get all of these gems back. And turns out not to be just for Danny, it turns out to be for Freak Show. So I don't know how this is such a lose-lose situation, but yeah, Freak Show is keeping the family and friends hostage while Danny, Sam, and Tucker have to pretty much save them. And they don't know how their parents are gonna react, if they're gonna hate him for the rest of his life. Like, it is all downhill from here. I like that Jazz is essentially nagging all of them and defending Danny in this scenario, when everybody gets to actually blame each other for everything that probably occurred this season. After getting to the Space Center, they finally get the red gem, needing to get the next one from Gothapalooza. It seems like it's gonna be this horrible emo show, but since everything is the opposite, the yellow gem that's located there turns everything into frilly, happy teddy bears, and the opposite of what would make a goth show. So Danny gets to turn it back to normal as they collect the yellow gem. And this part of the special is kind of annoying because it feels like it soars through them collecting the gems so quickly to focus only on the stakes-driven moments, which is kind of the opposite problem I would usually have against these shows. Like, usually they're going so quickly through the jokes that we don't get to see any character development or stakes, but in this situation it's all stakes, no character development. Like, we don't get to see them grow super much, just Danny trying to avoid what he's supposed to do while also staying afloat. Not necessarily doing any good for anyone, but just surviving. But since it's not usual for a kid's show, it just makes it even more unique and special that this is the circumstances that they have to deal with. When they get to the technology place, like Tucker wanted to go, it's like a Comic-Con convention, but since the gem is here, it makes all of these crazy villains come to life. Feels like 3 episode ideas stormed into one second act of a structure. But since there's so much at stake, I'm like on the edge of my seat at every turn. Danny finally gets all 3 gems and heads back to Freak Show where they keep the family captive. And surprise, surprise, there is a third twist. That Freak Show actually uses this power to essentially kill his friends and family. He puts them all on a roller coaster, ready to dive into a pool of acid. Oh my gosh. So yeah, Danny has to watch his friends and family die essentially. Kind of like what happened in The Ultimate Enemy, but instead of being attached to the Nasty Burger, they're attached to this crazy roller coaster, which if you ask me is a lot more drama driven. Without knowing how his friends and family are going to accept him, Danny has to face everybody constantly. The emotional labor he has to put on with everybody knowing he's Danny Phantom and Fenton at the same time is just really stressful, and it, as an audience member, makes me really curious to see how people are going to react to this, which is like the psychology of what makes this special so impressive. Danny isn't really able to take down Freak Show in this moment, and it is super concerning until he himself is able to take the gauntlet and turn the tables on Freak Show. Not only does this special feel like a sequel to the first season's Control Freaks episode, but it feels like it's going way further than we expected. And it separates itself enough from the Marvel property to not have to cross-compare them too much. It's just annoying that the gauntlet looks exactly like the Tesseract from the movie, but we just have to look past it and enjoy Freak Show's new red outfit. Yeah, it's looking good here. So Danny gets this whole thing himself and is able to save his friends and family, locking up Freak Show once and for all in the thermos. Oh, wow. Danny's friends and family finally accept him for being half ghost, half human, which lets a giant weight off of all of us, because this entire series we're worried about Danny being outed, and the fact that he gets outed and then accepted by the end of this is even more better. Like, I like that it has such a full circle moment where they don't have to find out, but just the fact they did and accepted him is really fulfilling. And by the end, they end up getting all their memories erased, and Danny gets to keep his secret with everything going back to normal. But I would have liked to almost completely go through this assuming that everybody remembers this. I don't know, there's something about it that feels kind of wholesome when they're all working together. We get one last shot at the end of this special where Danny is flying off into summer just like he was at the beginning, and this time his dad is yelling at him one more time to remind us that he is still against Danny Fenton as a ghost. So yeah, the cinematic like quality of this special is like undeniable. It does such a good job at using like a movie structure to fit into a 2-part double episode. It's just a little quick in the second act, but who cares? There's so much drama going on, it's hard not to pay attention this entire time. And it's hard not to compare it to The Ultimate Enemy. And while I think The Ultimate Enemy has so much more at stake, given the fact that time is of the essence and it could be manipulated and maneuvered, and Danny's character is on the line, this one does a good job at raising the stakes in everything but his character. Before, the special was about Danny versus himself, and that's always a really interesting plot. Like, The Ultimate Enemy is him trying to stop a future in which he gets mad with power, and in this moment, he's fighting with himself and the entire world with his identity being out there. And it's hard to do both. Like, I feel like if everybody found out he was Danny Phantom in The Ultimate Enemy, I mean, they did, but like, if that was the whole central plot, it would be such a different story. So the fact that they separated these as 2 separate specials, but none were like specifically larger of a story than the other, like, it just does such a good job at balance with what it has has. I do think this should have been 3 parts, and the fact it was 2 really jarred me because I thought it was 3, you know? Like, definitely a surprise. But ending with all these stakes, these crazy season 2 episodes, like, I could see why Danny Phantom is one of the best action cartoons for Nickelodeon just for this season alone. I know it doesn't go exactly uphill from here. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Johnny 2000, and for more 2000s content, don't forget to check out my channel. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.